What's up, everybody, and welcome to another stunning edition of Video Game Wondercast. I'm your host, Rocky Linderman. Joining me today, as always, the Dirty D, Mr. Destro the Destroyer.
The Dirty D!
What?
Oh, God. I forgot about that.
So we've got a very special episode for you here today. We've got a Salt and Sanctuary review episode. And on the part 2 side of this, we had James and Michelle stop by, the creative force behind Salt and Sanctuary. They sat down with us for an hour.
They're so freaking cool, too.
Yeah, we only asked for 30 minutes, and they gave us an hour. What champs. So we're going to review the game first, and then part 2, we'll take a little break, come on back, and you guys can hear that interview. But for now, we're going to hop right into the review. Destry, what you think?
I thought it was sick. I noticed after I got done, I was just finished with it, looking at it, started New Game Plus, finally. I've dropped over 60 hours in this game, and I didn't realize I'd spent that much time with it.
You put 60?
60, yeah. I
60?
was playing, just having a great time with this game, man.
Holy shit.
Because I would risk explore. It's got the Metroidvania stuff to it, so that makes exploring that much more fun, And so I would just explore zones over and over again, checking places out. I had a great time with the game.
Well, you make me feel bad about myself. I've only done 20. And I'm like a quarter of the way through my New Game Plus.
Wow.
Man. I beat the game. We both went into it completely blind, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
So I went into it completely blind too, and I missed 2 bosses in my first playthrough. So I'm trying to go back through and find where those guys were at, which Destry found them, and they were the 3 and what was the other one?
Flying Castle?
Yeah, the Flying Castle. I never even found that area. And there were quite a few factions that I missed too, apparently, that I didn't know about looking back through the game. I made it up to the final boss, and I thought about going back to explore and kind of do that thing, but I was so amped up and ready to kill him. I was like, nah, I'm going in. I'm going to get him.
See, I think what's happened with me, why I got a lot of more extra time than you did, is when I got to the boss, and I tried fighting him, and he beat me soundly, but I was like, I haven't even gotten all the brands yet. So I was like, I don't want to beat it yet. And so I took off and just explored pretty much every zone, every inch of them, because I couldn't find out where to go. I could not find that stupid red door blend, and I was like, how do I get this thing? And so I explored every zone, top to bottom, wall to wall. I enjoyed it, though. I had a great time, because I know pretty much every place the back of my hand now. But yeah, I went back and I was like, I'm going to find this. I'm going to do it.
Well, we may have gotten a little ahead of ourselves too. For everyone that's not aware of Salt and Sanctuary, it's a PS4 exclusive right now. It's getting ready to come out on Vita and Steam. But it's basically, as James said himself, a 2D Dark Souls. That's the elevator pitch for it. So how did you find the combat, translating? Do you feel like they hit that mark, the Dark Souls mark?
I think they did, because you have to learn sometimes you have to learn how the enemy fights and the best way to approach it, which is the exact Dark Souls formula, You come across a new enemy, and as soon as you see it, you're like, okay, I don't know what to do with this guy, especially the big ones, the ones that look wild. You're like, I don't know how this guy's going to fight, so I got to think about this for a second. And then you jump in and you learn their fight patterns, and you just got to go from there. And I liked how it took that Dark Souls formula, though, and added a lot of just the hack and slash from their past games, like the Dishwasher Dead Samurai, which I loved when that game came out, because it was just a hack and slash beat 'em up. So this is slower than that, but it still keeps those elements of you can rack some serious combos on enemies sometimes.
Yeah, it feels really nice too. I used a greatsword for most of my playthrough, and just rolled to dodge enemies, but they have a launcher combo with the greatsword. So you hit them once, and then you wind up and hit them into the air, and you can follow them up there and beat them up a little.
Yeah.
Cool stuff like that.
Yeah, I've got a spear, and so the spear has a couple ground combos, but there's a couple where you knock them up and then slam them back down too. It's sick.
Mm-hmm. I thought too, initially when I was playing it, because in Dark Souls, the main thing you want to do to your enemies is get behind them and get that backstab thing in, most of the time you're constantly strafing your enemies in a circle pattern, kind of.
Yeah.
In this, you can't really do that because it's 2D, but you can roll through the enemies and you can jump over them. Which later on in the game, too, when you get that air dash, I found
Oh.
myself jumping over people a lot. And that kind of takes the place of the 3D plane. You know, it's kind of like you're getting around behind them, anyways. It's just a different way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Neither one of us were really magic users. I used some magic. I really liked the way they did the magic system. The way it works is there's a little bar underneath your stamina bar, and as you use magic, it depletes that bar, but it also draws away from your stamina. And you don't regain the stamina unless you have a special item in your inventory or until the next time you hit a sanctuary. Which I think the sanctuaries too, man, like that was a really cool and unique take on like a bonfire style thing. What did you think about them?
You mean like where you get the other items that can replenish, not just health potions?
Yes, yes, yes. The
Yeah, I thought
sanctuaries.
that was fantastic because then you have other things in your arsenal at different times. Like it's helpful because sometimes you always need this or you always need that to start a fight off. And it's I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. And I guess also going off of like how you love the magic system when it brings that down, it made it more difficult, but I loved how the health system did that too. Like it made it tough because as you get hurt in this game, you take wounds, and so
Right.
the wounds are it decreases your health bar until you stop at a bonfire again. So pretty much, if you're fighting a boss fight, like you have so many health potions, fine, but as you take more damage, you don't have that same max health for the fight, and so it makes it that much more dangerous. You have to end the fight, or you're gonna go down.
Yeah. And even being a magic, like a light healing thing, like what you're talking about with the health items would do that. Well, this healing spell would replenish my wounds too. But at the same time, it's still depleting my stamina bar, so I can't roll and hit as many times as I would be able to regularly. You know, so it was still a very like, how far do I want to push this?
Yeah.
It's very well balanced, I felt.
Yeah, it definitely keeps the magic. Well, like you'll hear here in a bit, he talks about how like the magic is still feels a bit OP, but it keeps it from being too overpowered. Like you have to make sacrifices in order to use this power, which is a fantastic concept.
Definitely. So we loved the combat and the magic systems and things of that nature. How did you feel about world design and
Oh
the
man,
bosses and everything?
the bosses were rad. Like they were so freaking rad. Just sometimes I just wanted to just stop and just look at them and be like, "Whoa, that is so cool!" And there's stories behind them too. Because after you encounter a boss, you can check your bestiary and look at their backstory,
I
and some of them get pretty
loved
deep.
that they had that in the game. Loved
Yes,
that. Because it
like
goes beyond
yeah,
the item descriptions. You can just look at the character model and scroll down and oh yeah, that was great.
yeah, like I loved that about that. It was because I like how it did like Dark Souls where it pieces stories together as you find stuff, and it's cool how it does that. But I love how they straight up have the beast, have its picture, have its story, and why it looks like this, and that's just so freaking cool.
Yeah, that was the reason like one of my favorite bosses in the game was the third lamb.
Oh my god.
And I discovered in the bestiary his whole story about, anyways, I won't get
Yeah,
into it.
don't spoil it. Don't spoil
Yeah,
it.
but
But just its story was so rad. It was just like
yeah,
wow.
that's what made me appreciate him. And it was like he became the third lamb, and I was like, wait, so there's two more lambs somewhere. And they talk about that in the bestiary, the
Yep.
other two lambs in the story, which I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, that's so cool.
And it adds so much more to the zone and just everything around you.
Hmm. And there's multiple bosses to some zones too, which was part of the reason why I didn't find all of them. Like I said, I missed two throughout my whole playthrough, which I feel really bummed about. I'm trying to find them in New Game Plus because that's like probably the brightest spots of the game is the bosses and the boss design in
Yeah.
it. But okay, so we've got all the Dark Souls elements there, but then there's Metroidvania elements too,
That breathes so much unique life to this game. Like it just
right?
made it so fresh. I felt.
I did too. The first time I got to a spot and I gained a new ability that allowed me to like traverse differently and, clear an area I couldn't be at before. It was just like mind blowing. I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they put this style of thing in this other style of thing that I love so much." Like my two favorite genres of game are one in this game.
Yeah, it just opened up an entire new world. Like it's not just stuck with just 2D action beat 'em up. Now this got all of the different exploration and just return aspects of Metroidvania stuff, and it was fantastic. And I would emphasize Metroidvania more than Dark Souls.
Yeah, well,
Because
yes
it
and
starts
no.
like Dark Souls. It starts off feeling like Dark Souls, but then as you get farther into it, it gets more of a Metroidvania game where the Dark Souls part doesn't feel as Dark Souls. I mean, it feels like a Metroid game almost, or Castlevania, because the bosses in those are hard too, right? So
Mhm.
you can't really say hard bosses are exclusive to Dark Souls.
I think it's the combat, the way it feels,
Yeah.
is the Dark Souls end of it. Um, just because of the stamina bar, having to balance out things like that,
Hmm.
timing. So I feel like the reason it's Dark Souls, because I kind of felt the same way too. The more you get into it, the more it feels like a Castlevania game.
Yeah.
Just because of the exploration in it and getting new abilities to go back new ways you haven't seen before, finding shortcuts, all that stuff. But I feel like the combat definitely solidly lands it in Dark Souls territory. Just between all the different weapons and move sets that you have, which is something you don't really think of Dark Souls as doing that, but I mean they really do. There are a ton
Yeah.
of different weapons in Dark Souls and move sets to use. And the
Whereas
way,
Metroidvania and Metroid and Castlevania is pretty much you got a gun, you got a whip.
right.
Yeah.
And the way that you have to encounter bosses and just enemies, how any enemy really could kill you potentially in the game,
Yeah.
that's a very like Dark Soulsian thing. Um, I don't know. And then just like resource management, the way you have to watch your
True.
stamina bar and you can't just endlessly attack, and things
Yeah.
like that.
And health potions and stuff. Yeah.
Right. And even the way you have to balance out your magic use. I feel like that lands it pretty solidly in Dark Souls territory.
Yeah. Okay. I get your argument for that. Yeah. Definitely.
Hmm. It has a pretty robust like crafting. Well, I don't know if you want to call it a crafting system, but
Oh.
the
Yeah. The
way
transmute.
the transmutation stuff
Yeah.
with the weapons, I
Mm-hmm.
thought was pretty cool too. Because you can transmute, you get a boss item for killing the bosses, and you can make a boss weapon, but you can also get items from just regular enemies too,
Yeah.
and
From
create a
basic.
weapon from them.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool too, because like all you get a massive amount of just random enemy items, and they actually do something. It's not just gonna take up. I mean, it's in your inventory, but they can be used, and I think that's awesome that they have unique uses to them.
Hmm. I did think that the inventory system, it took me a while to realize how to get into my inventory to look at that stuff.
Hmm.
Like maybe that could use a little polish. Like that was one slight dig I had against it. Like, you know what I'm talking about though, because you have your equipment inventory, and then you have that little satchel in the upper hand corner.
Yeah,
And if you're not lined up correctly, when you press up, you won't necessarily go up into that upper menu.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. You have to go over, and then do up. Yeah.
yeah, so that took me a minute to figure that out and to figure out where those things were going in my inventory. But once I did, it was no problem.
I
Um,
wish you could like organize the inventory. That was something that I was kind of wishing to have.
yeah, and then the other thing I thought, I mean, I know this goes against the spirit of Dark Souls, but I thought a map maybe. How do you feel about what would a map bring to the table in this game? Or
Hmm.
do you think it's a bad idea?
I don't know because it would help, but then I also know the places now because there
Yeah.
was no map, and I like
That
I
is the
had
thing
to
with Dark
learn.
Souls. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's I mean that's just it. There's like a map. A map would add to the Metroidvania aspects of it, but I don't know because it would help. It would make it easier, yes, but the difficult part of the game is you have to learn zones. You learn where things are. You remember where like stuff is to where you come back to find it again later.
That is true. Maybe like as a new game plus thing.
Yeah, that
So
might be
once
cool.
you finished it, yeah, you could see the areas that you missed or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but that was like one of the things I did love the world design and navigating the world and everything. But I'm so bummed about missing those two bosses. I feel like, if I had had a map that was like, oh, this area is blacked out, I should go explore in this general direction. But maybe that would have ruined the spirit of the game.
That
I don't know.
that kind of ruins I guess the discovery part of it too. Because
Right.
sometimes you just stumble upon a new area and you're like, oh, whoa, this is new. Or like you find a back door from a very
Another
advanced
area.
area back to the basic area, and you're like, oh wow, this connects to here. I never would have expected that. But if you see a map, you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna go back.
Right. Yeah. All right. So maybe that is a bad idea after all.
I think it'd be cool to have like in the bestiary a zone description. You know,
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
like because you learn the stories of the zones throughout the enemy and the items that you find there, but it'd be cool to have like a zone description to tell its full story after you like beat the boss or something.
Yeah, I agree. Well, do you want to go ahead and put a rating on this sucker?
I guess so. We're gonna go for it.
Okay. So I feel really good about this game. I I'm putting it in the epic range, but I feel like I could teeter very easily into legendary. Um, what do you think? Where are you sitting on it?
I'm right there with you because like it's great. I know it's at least epic,
Yes.
100%. Because I like I said earlier, I completely enjoyed my time with it. I mean, sure, there were times when I got pissed off. I got mad because I would lose, but that I don't know. That's just part of playing a video game. If a game doesn't challenge you,
What's the point?
what's the point? Yeah,
Yeah.
what's the point? And it wasn't. It never felt like the fights were so hard that I was like, wow, I can't stand playing this game anymore.
Yeah.
Like they were challenging, and I knew that if I learned the bosses, I would overcome them, and I did. So, like at this point, it just feels like it's the argument's becoming why not legendary, And
Yeah.
I don't know if because the only thing I've got against it would just be because we want to keep legendaries rare.
Right.
But
Is that really a basis though to not give it one if we feel it deserves one?
I know,
It's a tricky situation. We've never given a game a legendary, an
except
official
for like
legendary rating.
yeah, because we gave The Last of Us legendary,
Right.
and that's
Um,
pretty much it.
yeah.
Mario Maker wasn't that legendary?
No, no.
Mario Maker didn't make it legendary.
No. Well, because they didn't have checkpoints in at the time of the
Oh,
rating. So,
yeah.
but that's a different subject. Um, I don't know, man, because I feel like Salt and Sanctuary is really special. It's something different that we haven't really seen before. That translation of Dark Souls style and feel to a 2D plane is really commendable, and I feel like it's done perfectly.
Yeah.
Um,
And the Metroidvania, like we keep harping on it, but the Metroidvania opens up so much more as well.
yeah, it makes it really feel like its own game, not
Yeah.
just a Souls clone.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I'm I'm gonna, you know what? Okay, it's also the reason for not making legendary is because Wyatt would get pissed.
why it would get pissed.
Because he's like, man, I wouldn't like that game. I don't want it to be legendary. And so it almost feels like it's got to be legendary to people who would enjoy this vein of game. I
Right.
don't know. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, if you don't like Dark Souls, if you don't like a Castlevania or Metroid style game, stay away. Why are you listening to this? Like,
Yeah.
um,
But
but
you,
you know
you
what?
can't do that though, because I mean, some people would not like The Last of Us, but that's legendary to us.
Yeah, that's true. So you know what? Fuck it.
Fuck
I'm
it, we're
putting
going
legendary on it.
legendary.
Yeah. So congratulations, James and Michelle. You made a true masterpiece here with Salt and Sanctuary. Excellent game. Recommend it to anyone that loves Dark Souls or Castlevania. Legendary, our first official rating on that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that,
Nice.
yeah. All right. So that's part one of the Salt and Sanctuary review down. We're going to take a little break and then we'll be right back with James and Michelle. Hey guys, welcome to the part two of the Salt and Sanctuary review episode. We've got two special guests here with us today. The creative force behind Salt and Sanctuary, Mr. James Silva and Mrs. Michelle Jewett Silva. Hey guys, and thank you for being on the show. We're really glad you could make it.
Hey, thanks.
Yep, thanks for having us on.
So we're here to discuss your new game, Salt and Sanctuary. Could you tell us a little bit about the game and basically what's the elevator pitch?
The elevator pitch is just it's a 2D Dark Souls. It's so much more, but it's kind of what happens is if you tell someone that, they're either still listening or they're not. So it's a good place to start. But yeah, I mean it's a 2D side scroller with a lot of emphasis on really technical combat and really deep, diverse RPG character building mechanics. It's just it's the idea of kind of this medieval fantasy game that just feels dangerous. We want every encounter to feel just really dangerous and unforgiving. You have to be really mindful of your surroundings and your tactics and all that. It's a production that's been about 3 years of work on our part. It's our first game on PlayStation 4, our first game on a Sony platform for that matter.
Yeah, it's also our first game that we both have worked on together from start to finish. So every other game before that, I came on later in the project. So this is like our first together official husband and wife game.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And you saying that you wanted the game to feel dangerous, like I didn't even think about that, but that's a totally perfect way to describe it because you're totally right. Like
Yes.
every time you come up against something, you're like, shit, what is that? I don't know how to get into this.
Anything new.
Yeah, definitely.
You
take
see
a
those
step back
candles
when you
for a
see
boss room, and you just get like really nervous. You're like, oh shoot, it's about to go
Yeah.
down.
something. It took me forever to put that together that the candles were outside of boss rooms.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
kept getting surprised by a boss, and I was like, no.
Yeah, the system, it's kind of hacky how I implemented the system for PlayStation, but it works. I couldn't figure out a little detail on PlayStation. It'll actually work a little better on the Steam version, but it's supposed to show kind of like a global win versus loss against the boss, or basically win versus total tries.
Yeah.
So yeah, for PS4, it's actually showing kind of the data of like the most recent 10 players or so. But with Steam, we have global stat tracking. I think that works for PlayStation too. I couldn't figure it out, and it's kind of new stuff for me. But yeah, it's kind of nice where you can see like you get to a boss and there's only one out of 9 candles lit, and it's just like ooh.
That's freaking cool. I never even thought about that. I wondered like why only certain amounts were lit, but that's really freaking cool.
Right. Yeah. That's how it's supposed to work. Like I said, not exactly as intended. I've been thinking about tweaking it a bit, and we're still working on the PlayStation build. Right. We're actually like right at the end of trying to get this next patch put together. So, but that's another story. But yeah, we had a lot of those sort of online passive mechanics were a bit of a hack. I'm actually using like scoreboards to store a lot of that data, which is weird. But
It's still kind of nifty though. That's pretty cool. I dig it.
We noticed on your website, you guys' official titles. James, you're the lead dishwasher, and Michelle, you're the art unicorn.
Yeah.
Could you guys explain what that entails as far as Salt and Sanctuary is concerned, and maybe even Ska Studios in general?
I think they started out as silly titles so James's first game was the dishwasher, and when he made business cards, I think this is the story, he just was like, yeah, lead dishwasher.
because I was the only
Because
one
you were
that.
making the entire game on your own, and that it's just kind of a funny little title. And then when I came on, I'm just like, okay, well, I'm artist, but I'm also doing like 1,000 other things. We both wear many hats, and at some point, another guy who worked with us, Dustin, who was working as a marketing coordinator, had this list of like things that he wanted James to do as his art slave, like art slave to-do list. And James is like, I don't like the term art slave. It's gonna be art unicorn.
Yeah.
And then as I'm trying to think of a title to put on my business cards, James just says, "What about art unicorn? Yeah, be art unicorn." And
Nice.
that stuck, I guess.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, I guess like I don't know, the big takeaway is that as an indie studio, we all wear many hats, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you know, I don't even know what my job title would be if I had to give myself a, you know, because we basically both do, you know, pretty much everything. Um, you know, I do all the coding, music, and um, like the art, and it's all my style. But Michelle cleans a lot of it up, and then all the animation I do mostly myself. And then Michelle's like right now she's just been stuck on handling all the contact stuff.
All the other business numbers things.
Right. It's
Yeah.
just it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's endless work.
it's endless business. It's actually
And
slowing down a bit, which is nice. I can kind of breathe now.
yay. Right. Yep. And we have D&D tonight, so we get to take a break.
Oh,
Yay.
Oh, awesome.
D&D. What edition do you guys play?
The 5e.
Oh, nice.
We're in the group that we're playing with tonight. We're working on the
Horde of
the
the Dragon.
Horde of the Dragon Queen campaign, human
Yeah.
campaign.
I literally just started a campaign with some of my friends here in 5.0, and
Yeah.
it's turned out weird, but that's expected for D&D.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
I missed out on it for all of my life, and then I just got into it like last year. So it's
Right.
it's crazy. I love how much of it goes back to game design. You know, it's just, and I'm like looking at all these little, you know, how these little stats all interact, and I'm just like, this is just it's so elegant. You know, everything. I really love it. So yeah, I really nerd out over it. I mean, it's kind of like it's similar to how like I really liked how just kind of elegant all the stats in Dark Souls worked, you know. And I think that's a big thing with like I really hope this continues, but you know, I feel like there's just been this big new trend of indie developers that are like, I want to play with the numbers too. You know?
Yeah.
So all of these indie developers, like for some reason, it's just like the Souls series just really like it checks off just the right boxes for like the indie developer brain, and you know, so we look at these games and we're just like, oh, these are good numbers. These are good systems. And I want to do them. I want to make, you know, and that's so a lot of like indie Souls are you know, in the works or coming out. It's a lot of fun, you know, to just kind of see how like from one indie developer to the next, we all kind of have, you know, it's just you get to see the series from like a different perspective, different lens, and I really hope that's, you know, with Assault and Sanctuary, and of the other ones out, I guess just Dark Mouse is out. Dark Mouse is another you know, Souls inspired 2D indie game, and I really like I hope it becomes a thing where you know, Souls fans really just appreciate this you know, all these different perspectives and different takes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of that's we've been hearing a lot of that from Salt and Sanctuary, and it's been awesome. But I know like Acer is one I always give a shout out to. It's kind of like an isometric pixel art kind of Souls game. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
No,
It's
I
spelled
haven't.
EITR.
Yeah, are they Australian? I want to say.
I thought they were English.
Oh, I don't know.
The accent throws you off.
Find out.
I actually
Yeah.
did that once when we were at a party. I mean, it was like the lounge at E3, and I spent like a long time talking to this one guy, and then
Oh, no.
this other developer, Jules Watson. He did Mutant Muds, and I guess
Yeah.
CO Drifters was just him. I spent like a long time talking to him. I mean, we were all kind of drunk, and like a month later or so, he like tweeted some YouTube video he made, and I watched it, and I was like, he's Australian?
With slurred speech, you can't pick up the accent.
Yeah. Somehow when everyone's shouting at each other, I guess Australian just sounds
It
the
just sounds
same.
like shouting.
Yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
like how singing, when singers, like
Yes,
British
there you
singers
go.
sing, they sound like they're singing. They don't sound British necessarily.
No.
Right?
But the Ater people company, they are in London, England.
Aha.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's them, and then there's Death's Gambit, and then Ghost Song, and then I think and we met the Death's Gambit guys too.
Yeah, they were next to us at a few events.
Cool.
Yeah, and then a bunch of other games that I don't know the developers that well, but I'm Twitter friends with the guy making Ghost Song,
We're
and
friends.
then yeah, I guess Necropolis is coming out too. But yeah,
Sick.
a lot of indie Souls games.
Nice.
And
Yeah,
you're
it's
listing a bunch of games I want to try now that I haven't heard of.
Yeah, it's
That's
like, okay,
awesome.
right.
writing this
Well, I
down.
think only Dark Mouse is the only other one that's currently out. But I mean, if you talk
Um,
to the developers, I'm sure they'd be happy to send demos
yeah,
and
the only
stuff.
one I've really played of those was Death's Gambit at that rooftop event we were at, and oh my goodness, it's a hard game. It's really cool though. There's some like really awesome like elemental boss fights. Like the environment is part of the fight. It's so cool.
I kept running into things in Salt and Sanctuary that I was like, man, like this is a good solution to like your magic system in Salt and Sanctuary.
Yeah.
I love the way that works. Like I
Oh,
wish
cool.
Dark Souls would implement that. That was awesome.
Cool.
I thought
And
the
That was
wound.
probably one of the more experimental. You know, I mean, like when you're making the game, I was always kind of asking myself like how much, how much of my ideas, how much of like, because you're like we do a lot of dev streams, right? And so many people in the dev streams would just be like you have to do it like this, you have to do it like this. This is how Dark Souls do it. You have to do this. So we're kind of like walking this fine line where we wanna give the people what they want,
Mhm.
but then it's like okay, but I feel like this idea is could be good too, here and there, and I mean I think I think we had a lot of good ideas. We probably had a few more questionable ideas in there too, but yeah, the magic one I think magic still ended up kind of way OP, based on what everyone's telling me. um, but the whole idea of like keeping this balance between like like the big emphasis of it was just maintaining all of these separate balances, kind of like maintaining an Ollie in Tony Hawk or something. It's just
Yeah.
you've got all these different systems that you're trying to balance, and the idea is like magic is supposed to be exhausting mentally and physically and in all these different ways, and
It's a great
but
way to show it. Yeah.
yeah. But if you master it, it's way powerful, and then I think it even ended up a little bit too powerful, especially Dragonfire, which it's getting nerfed, but
I never checked any of those out. I always do sword and board and then like light healing spells for my characters in those type of games. I never delved into the really deep magic system stuff, but
right.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
went
I
spear.
see that a lot. I see a lot. People try out their melee first, and then try out a sorcerer build later.
Yeah, and like it was supposed to be really hard to start out as a mage, but even then, I mean, people that are quick at rolling
They can
have
figure
no
it out.
trouble.
yeah. So, what made you decide to put in the Metroidvania elements that are in Salt and Sanctuary?
Well, I think I mean so it started with the Vertigo brand. That was the very first one, and that was kind of like I mean, and it was really like to me it was kind of like a shout out to Symphony of the Night, just the whole
Oh,
concept.
yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
upside down castle.
Yeah, I was like that would be kind of cool, and I mean also there's kind of a whole thematic meaning to it too, but that's kind of about like a bigger picture reveal about the game once you get to the end, but I mean if you got that, I don't know how spoilery you want to get or...
We can get as spoilery as you feel like getting,
Yeah.
so it's up to you guys.
We'll just say spoiler warnings.
Right. Yeah, I guess there's these spoiler warnings on that. I don't know. But yeah, I mean the whole idea that the island is actually all just flipped. It's all an upside down world, So it's
You're all basically upside down underwater.
right.
Oh.
So when you vertigo it, you're actually
Turn the
you're
world
actually
upside up.
going back to
Whoa.
normalcy, which is why like the jester's kind of like the only sane
He's
one.
the
on
only
that.
sane one, right? The fool is the sane one. Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool
Because
idea.
he's the one with
Yeah.
that bonfire.
So it kind of started with there, and then with that, yeah. I mean, I actually had I was gonna do a double jump, but I never put that in. But the other ones, they all just kind of fell in after that. I mean, the whole Metroidvania system, it's like, it's a pretty simple idea, but it's just it's really neat to just kind of see all these things and just but they start out kind of with no meaning other than mysteries, and as you can return it's just like, oh yeah, now I can do this, now I can do that. It's so much. I mean, it's so gratifying as a gamer, and
Oh yeah.
It's
With the
always fun
first
coming
time.
back. Yeah.
Yep. The first time I got that very first brand, and I was like, oh my God, they're really doing this. Yes, thank you. It was like,
Right. You just get this like click in your mind, like, oh, this changes everything.
Yep.
Especially early on, you see those obelisks, and a lot of people just kind of jump at them forever and try to get them to do something, and eventually give
Oh, yeah.
up. But
Yeah.
there's people who will spend a lot of time jumping at the obelisk. It's like,
Yeah, well, so we've got like a private Steam beta that we've just kind of had sitting around for a while, and we did some UX testing through our QA. Like we contracted QA through this company that's basically half of the Behemoth, the Castle Crasher studio.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
And so they have like a QA house that they're basically like it's a very very indie friendly QA house, and we've been working with them, and they said, would you like to do some UX, which user experience testing, where they bring in randos. It's called them randos. They bring in
randos.
randos
They're
to
people who don't work in the industry and maybe only a lot of them just really only casually play video games, which ended up being maybe not super beneficial to our kind of game.
Yeah.
But you do see how an average person would approach a game like this, and most people just try to button mash, which is not going to work for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember with the obelisk, they would get to the obelisk, and because the messaging system is all in place, but because our private closed beta that we have on Steam is a very small user base. Messages wouldn't get replaced very often, so there are messages there that have just been there for months, and one of them was by the obelisk, and it said, use this to go up. So I think the only person who realized what the messages were was an experienced Souls player. The rest of them had no experience with Souls games. So they would see the message and they would just be like, I don't understand it. It's telling me use this to go up. Why can I not? So they didn't realize it was a user generated message.
Oh man.
But also there's like if you play video games a lot, you have like a kind of gamer instinct to know that, hey, maybe I can come back to this later and not right now. Whereas I think like what we were seeing anyway is a lot of people who aren't familiar with game logic is they would just try it forever. There was another weird thing we were seeing, and I think I even tweeted about it. We noticed that people weren't understanding that you can press down and X to fall through platforms. Like I thought that was a major like
that's common knowledge.
That's an old school
Yeah.
platforming knowledge there.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't obvious somehow
Yeah,
to your average person.
when you're playing through, there's actually like a tutorial message bottle at the platform right outside of to the right of the festering banquet beyond that night, and the bottle says like down plus X equals drop down, and
down through.
that was like one of the
watching people struggle with
of,
that. Like people would they would run all the way to an edge of a platform, and to get down to the next platform below them, they would like run out, jump out, and then try to duck back under. Like try to fall out and then under, and it's like you were doing this the hard way.
Yeah, but yeah,
this isn't why the game is hard.
9 out of 10 players were not a fan of the game.
They did not like it.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some people left very upset.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's weird though, because like my fiance is not really a gamer either, and like I'll try and get her to play something, and she'll be like, "Well, how did you know how to do that?" And I'm like, "I don't know really. It's just like experience from playing games." It's funny how that
There's
is.
logic that you develop from other games, like it's knowledge. Like red barrels mean they're gonna explode if you shoot them. Like,
Exactly.
that kind of-
Yeah.
you just know it.
All right, so we really loved the bosses and the art design for Salt and Sanctuary. We found it satisfyingly metal. Can you guys tell us what were some of your favorite areas to design, and what were some of your favorite bosses?
We always get asked that, and I think we have like different answers every time because you're always just kind of thinking about that. But I don't know. I think like we both really like the Queen of Smiles.
Queen of Smiles. She's just so good as just here's an awesome boss.
Right. I love how terrifying it is when she just like slides toward you.
Yeah.
Blades out. But yeah, I mean like my favorite mechanics wise, I think my favorite is just the final boss, which I can't really talk about. Also the first boss too. And it's kind of a similar idea.
Yeah,
With,
the first boss was, the first boss, really designed for the game and to really like kind of make a like a setting, like to set the whole stage, right?
Hmm.
It's like this is the boss that will set the whole stage for the whole game to kind of tell you, hey, you may think you were having a good time, but this boss is going to mess you up now.
That guy whooped my ass so many times that it wasn't even funny. I had a slow roll going into it, and I had to get naked to kill him. Like,
Yeah,
God.
it's fun.
That's
He
one
reminded me.
strategy.
Yeah.
He reminded me so much of the pursuer from Dark Souls 2,
Mm.
the
Yeah.
first guy.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, the idea was that you basically like once you beat the first boss, you should be equipped to handle any challenge in the game.
Right.
But until you beat him, you haven't really adapted to the to the play style of Salt and Sanctuary. So I mean that's kind of the approach of it, and I don't really know how intentional it was that it worked out that way, but but it like looking at it in retrospect, I'm like, yeah, that's good because you get to understand rolling and like seeing how moves are telegraphed, seeing how you can roll past an enemy, not getting cornered, um, and kind of managing your health and
Yeah. Yeah, he's a really good learning boss. Because he's slow, like if you compare him to other bosses, really, he's slow. He telegraphs very largely. He
right.
lifts his arm up for a good second. Like this should be obvious. Like once you learn it.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
got a defined pattern. Yeah.
I love though. So like he does this one attack. It even like it gets me a lot where he does this one like downward slam attack and then he just follows it up with the same attack again. And I think he can even turn.
Yeah, that turn move, man. I want to drop an F-bomb there about that move. God,
right.
it was
Where
so.
he does the slam and then just turn slam again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you expect him to sit there for a second and then he just doesn't, and you're like, God, go away. You like, go.
Yeah, and the whole he's got the heat up and yeah all that. He kind of does that little barrage of the three slashes at the end. Yeah, I'm happy with him. Like I really like designing bosses. It's probably one of my favorite parts of game development. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean this game was just a blast to work on, and we ended up with a lot of bosses too. And I still like I feel like I wish more of them had more more dynamic heat ups. For the amount of time we spent and the amount of work we got done, like I'm pretty happy with how it turned out.
Cool. I think my two favorites were the third lamb and that stench most foul.
Oh, nice.
Out of that. But,
Yeah, it's funny.
Right. Yeah, I like the third lamb. I really like the story behind the third lamb.
I know.
Yeah.
It's so
I feel
dark
like,
and cool.
oh, my baby, my baby.
Man.
Little
Right.
baby hippogriff. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I was, so James like designed him initially, and then I tried to fix him up, gave him his gauntlet with the runes on it, and yeah,
That's cool.
he's a special guy.
So there's also some like really neat and unique weapons in the game. What were some of your favorites? How did you decide which ones to include? And are there any that you left on the cutting room floor that you wish had made it in?
I think we were trying to get really as many of the like base kind of weapons that you can get in this kind of a game. But we did, I guess, leave out rapiers. And
Yeah, no,
that was one that like James keeps talking about. Is like, I really wanted to put those in there.
Right. Well, I mean that's been kind of like a go-to with Souls games for me too. It's just it's
The
just
fast stabby.
little stabby pokey, pokey
Stabby.
stabby, and then like we even have like the false jester has a rapier, but you can't
Right?
you can't actually
it,
get one
yeah.
yourself.
He doesn't use it properly, really either.
Here and
He
there.
tries to like
He
jump
uses it like
slash you with it.
he uses it like an S stock.
Yeah, well, some attacks, but then other attacks he like jumps and tries
He-
to jump down at you with it.
He swashbuckles. He swashbuckles.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, I I think so much of the game was spent just making like standard weapons, which for me it's kind of a departure because I mean, if you followed our older games like the dishwasher games, they were really inspired by just like the wackiness of like Devil May Cry. Kind of meets like the I mean, a lot of it was like Devil May Cry meets Ninja Gaiden, just like really really like precise samurai sword action. But then there's also like meat cleavers and like giant hammers and stuff. So like going from this more wacky. Well, actually, so a dishwasher too. We had a giant pair of scissors called the
Mhm.
guillotine. And I actually
Huh.
got. I don't know if you found them, but there are great
Yeah,
scissors.
there's
I
scissors.
that's the
What?
weapon I roll with. I roll with great scissors. Yeah, the
Right.
Jaws of Death, I think, is the one I use.
Yeah, it's actually funny. We so a lot of the weapon names were renamed by this YouTube creator named A German Spy, who was like I want to write for you. And we're like, okay, here's a big Excel, like a big Google sheet to work on, and he renamed everything, and all the names in the game are way more interesting than the original. It used to be like Iron. Banner Shield, Iron Sword, and then that became like Varangian Spatha or like Escutcheon or
Wow.
all these like
Oh
really
yeah, there's
interesting
so
names.
many very like fantasy and
Right,
and medieval names that we're just like, oh wow.
right. And he
Yeah.
did a great job, and he's fantastic. But the the rub is that I forget all of the names
Oh
to all
yeah.
of the things in the game that
Yeah,
we
and then
made.
people try to talk to us about the weapons, and we're like, can you describe the look of it? Because I don't really know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Right. I
I
think
actually go to our Fectia Life wiki a lot because of that. The
right.
Fectia Life wiki is so useful for developers even.
I know the Sodden Knight sword is the Shrouded
The
Bulwark now.
Shrouded Bulwark, yeah.
Yeah. The Armor Guardian is
I'm
the
so
Obsidian Pillar.
interested in how that will translate when you try to localize it.
Right. Yeah, and that's the other thing is we're just going through and fixing all of our localization too. So we'll have good German in the next patch, and then
Proper languages.
yeah,
Oh, nice.
prob- probably good
Right.
Italian after
Yeah, that
that.
was one of the biggest complaints is, hey, your translations are horrible.
Oh.
Who did you get to translate this? Like, Google.
Right? And it's always kind of a fine line between like your translations are horrible and your translations are offensive. What is
Yeah.
your issue
Oh
with
no.
like,
Yeah, why
like,
do you hate us?
yes, do you really hate Germans so much that you did this?
Wow.
Oh man.
No one's actually said that, but
No.
I'm always wondering if we're on the verge of creating an international incident.
Like if one of those machine translations was something incredibly offensive and
Yes, yeah.
oops, yeah.
But yeah, I guess the one of the more funny ones that stand out, I guess like Armor Guardian is like a guardian in armor, right? I guess it translates guardian as like a parental guardian in German.
A legal guardian.
Yeah, legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they
Oh,
have like a
guardian.
specific word for like legal guardian.
Which could be really creepy fighting that thing. Like this is your parent that raised you.
No.
That'll be like the psychological scene. Like every
Right.
enemy is like your mother, but it's got your father's body, but it's
That's a potential theme in video games is when you're fighting something and it ends up being your sister, you know.
Oh yeah.
right with your ex-wife's face or
Hello, Silent Hill. Yeah, so
Ideas
so we're
for
working
Salt
on
and
getting
Century
those translations. Working on
Yep.
getting those translations in for
mitigate
reals.
that international incident. Yeah.
too. All
So
right. Gotcha.
In the meantime, we're trying to warn everybody that we talk to, like, hey, by the way, I see that your page is in Italian. By the way, Italian is not correct at all.
and it seems like that's a lot more effective than just being like go nuts. You know?
Yeah.
If they've been
If we
warned.
forewarn them, then people are much more forgiving.
Yeah. I love having a platform to explain the reason behind this folly, and that is that. So previously, we published games through Microsoft, and Microsoft would handle localization, and then post launch, we would get a bit yelled at by speakers of those languages for the poor translations. Like one that always comes to mind was in the Dishwasher Dead Samurai. You can warp like teleport, right? And they translated warp like to deform, like to deform plastic. So it's like I mean if the tutorial text says like use the right analog stick to deform, I mean obviously you're going to say this is poor quality, right? So I kind of went into it thinking like, well, I guess Microsoft has been just using Google Translate too. So I thought I was quite clever, and I incorporated the Google API into all of our text edit, all of our like I've got an editor for Loot, I've got an editor for like dialogue stuff, and I integrated the Translate API so that every time I made any change, it could just automatically be translated into a bunch of languages. I thought it was pretty clever. I was like, well, if this is like the standard, I mean, like no one's gonna be that much worse off for it. And hey, I did grow up with all your base or belong to us. I mean, everyone's
Yeah.
kind of they know the drill, right? Like but I later found out that when you pay for localization, like the cheapest tier is machine translate plus light human review. And or plus light review, I think they call it. So I think that's what they were doing. They were doing machine translate plus light review. So it's all translated, but then someone goes through and just makes sure all the grammar is fine, which is how you end up with warp being translated as deformed, but then the grammar at least is okay with it. So what we had cases where warp would be translated as deformed, but then the grammar was also a train wreck, and that was kind of the, that's kind of over the line. So yeah, now it's embarrassing, and we're fixing it, and yeah, and like the game's doing fine, so it's like we're like, okay, like we shouldn't have tried to do it cheaply and cleverly in the first place. Should have just paid to have it done. But we're paying people to have it done now. So it's all, I don't know. I'm hoping we haven't lost too much faith. And ideally, by the time we release on PC, everything should be in a much better state. so that's where we are with that. Little embarrassing.
I'm sure you guys will do just fine. There's a large groundswell of support for the game, so I don't think that's gonna hurt anything really.
Right. It offends a few people, but like in a funny way. But
Yeah.
I think what happens a lot is people will just switch their console to English. And actually, our next patch is you'll be able to switch the in-game. You don't have to switch your console to English.
Nice, yeah.
That's a pain. Yeah. So if you can speak English well enough, it'll be a much better experience. And then like I said, all the fixed translations are coming out.
Cool. Well, kind of bridging over to that, there's a lot of lore in the game. So who are some of your favorite characters, and what's your favorite story you got to tell?
Well, I kind of like the hidden main story. That it kind of is revealed through the thief if you follow her.
Yeah.
The whole thing about how, and it was kind of like a I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but like this whole idea of people being caught up about whether or not games are about saving the princess, and it's like, I mean, if that's a big enough turnoff that you don't want to play the rest of the game, then you just lost out, kind of thing, is kind of where I was looking at it from.
I think
because
it's pretty obvious that that's not what it's about, though, because as you like, that's the first thing it talks about. But then when you get into it, the old man kind of makes fun of you for it. He's like, "I could be your princess,"
Right.
And it just becomes kind of clear, like that's not really what this is about.
Yeah. One of the UX testers was offended.
Oh yeah, she
Oh,
was
really?
not into it.
She was like, "Why isn't the princess a character? Why is she just an object to be
Yeah,
saved?"
why can't I
Oh.
talk to her? Yeah.
So it was kind of like okay, it's a simple thing, castles and dragons and princesses, and nope, it's not. But I mean, and you're supposed to, hopefully you assume as much, but if you didn't, that's your loss. That's kind of where I came into it from. And a lot of it was just it was kind of like in a way it was very meta, because it was we're more about just sort of bizarre universes,
Right,
and
weird, like kind of weird, more really personal storylines. Like Charlie Murder came from a really personal place, so we come from more like not. I guess if you go to tvtropes.com, we're super tropey apparently, but at least from our point of view, we come up with stories that aren't like the most commonly used kind of stories.
yeah. So in that it became kind of meta, because we're making just a fantasy game, with all the
With all the fantasy
castles
stuff.
and castles and dragons and princesses and you know, and it felt like okay, like are we like what are we doing here? Well, let's make fun of what we're doing here, and like you know, in that reveal a bigger thing of what we're doing here. So I mean, it was in a way it was kind of meta. I always like to have fun with making a story. And,
Yeah, there's a number of stories in there that are just straight up making fun of people. People that we
Yeah.
had met before.
well, that's a different thing.
That's another story.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that there's only really the one where it was the
yeah,
stupidest thing. We were at, and it's really dumb because it's like people. I'm sure everyone out there who played and liked the game really wished they could have had something about them be in the game, right? Because it's like what do you put in the game? What kind of actually you know I even felt really bad because so Peter Serafinowicz, the actor, like he was kind of a fan of the game. And I really wanted to put a boss in there that was, oh, bless you, like put some kind of a boss that would be like you know like Seraph, not Wix or something, you know, just like a shout out. And I never got around to it. So if he's listening, then sorry about that. But but instead we put in like the stupidest story. Like we were at South by Southwest, which was just like a real disappointment of a convention. It was because it was open to the public, like no, you know, not by any like it was the farthest you could imagine from a convention like PAX, where everyone is just like a hardcore gamer. Like South by Southwest, everyone was like you know, just like, oh, let's see, there's a free video games thing in town. Let's go check. You know, I used to love those Space Invaders. Let's go see what this is. You know, so it's like it was just this really, you know, I don't know, like uninspired crowd and a lot of just spaces where we were just waiting around.
a lot of strollers.
A lot of strollers.
Oh no.
A lot of people bringing their children. Yeah.
And then the whole situation, like the whole weekend, so we were right next to a booth that was like the whole booth was inside a tent, and they had a VR thing, and which like for this kind of crowd is like a massive draw because it's got a tent, it's got VR,
Yeah.
whereas our game is a very very specific draw. So people would be lining up for the VR tent, and their line would start to completely cover access to our booth, which is now it feels like this sort of like insult to injury thing. Like not only is your game not showing well here, but like people can't even get to it because everyone's in line for the VR thing. So they kept like trying to create new systems to prevent that from happening. And one of the weirdest ones was they capped the line at 4 people for the VR thing. So people kept trying to line up beyond 4 in front of and you know that would cover the front of our booth. And then someone from the tent would come out and tell them you can't line up after that. So one woman was like, she was like, you know, spot 5 in line, and she wanted to save her spot without being in line, so she was just kind of like hovering, like sort of trying to act like she was
pretending
interested.
like she was watching her game and like looking at it, but like having this look on her face, like what the heck is this garbage? Kind of
Yeah.
and at some
man.
point she says,
Well, she was playing.
"Oh, she was playing it. I thought she
playing
wasn't."
it. She was,
Okay.
yeah, she was playing it, and like you know, her friend was like, "Oh, what do you know?" And she's like, "I don't know what the point is. I don't know what the point is." And then like eventually she like looks up at us and she's like, "Excuse me, what's the point of
What's
this?"
the point? Yeah.
And it was such a weird like you know I mean just it like you have this thing that you're so focused on, you've been working on it for years. It's just like it has so much in it, and it's like it's such a deep just rich universe that you've made, and here's someone coming from totally outside of you know these really like totally outside of game mechanics. Like basically we're working in a language of game mechanics that everyone knows, that it is kind of like I mean we're all part of a special group, right? We understand these mechanics. Now we want something new in the universe of those mechanics. And then for her it's like coming from this total outside picture where like she hears video games, she's like, oh okay, so you know I have to like tap squares to make the squares disappear kind of thing. You know, like this you know a game in this universe of mechanics is totally foreign to her. So she's looking at it, she's like, I don't understand what the point is.
What's
And
the point?
it was just such like this curious blow to your self-esteem where you know, like, you've just built so much into this, and then here she's just like, what's the point?
So anyway, there's the knight that you encounter who talks to the NPC at some point. Kind of later on in the game, you can talk to him and talk to him again, and he says that there was a woman once that wondered what the point of it all was, and she was devoured by beasts.
Oh,
I read that.
she
Yeah, I
never
remember
figured
that.
out what it was, and she was devoured by bees.
Yeah.
perfect.
So that's it's such a. I mean,
And such
to
a
me,
little thing, but
it feels kind of like a tragedy that so many people would love to have some reference to them be in the game, but this one woman who
What's the
who was
point?
just like, just frustratingly oblivious, her little what's the point? That made it in. It's yeah.
Wow.
Anyway,
that's a story.
that's a story.
Perfect.
I'm just glad I got to
Yeah.
tell it.
But I think I really enjoy a lot of the stories that are in the talent tree.
Oh
yes,
yeah,
I noticed that
There's
too.
a lot of
together.
like
Have you seen that?
interesting.
What's that?
Somebody on Reddit made a full like
Oh,
Word
cool.
document of all the stories in the talent tree, like
Oh,
where you
that's
can
awesome.
read it start to finish.
That's great. Yeah, I was kind of wondering when that might happen. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some kind of spooky stories in there that I feel are very like keep saying Grimm's fairy tale reminiscent, where some of them are like just basic lore stuff, like this is how potions work, this is
Hmm.
how like healing potions work. But other stories that are just really eerie, I find, like
The
the
guy with the
hands.
hands. Yes, that one. That was the one I
Yeah.
read.
I love how
Yeah.
like the silence between them like says so much too. Like because it skips from like point in story to point in story, and then you fill in the blanks yourself.
Yeah, I find that when you don't know what's happening, it's scarier than the things you do
Yes.
see. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
your own imagination that fills in the blanks.
It's awesome. That makes me really happy. Because yeah, that was like I don't know why when I got really like into this idea that every node is like pretty much the same thing, and then the idea of putting flavor text to all of them, I thought like gave it this level of uniqueness and just interest that otherwise was because the whole idea of the skill tree was like, I mean, it was like it's an idea. I don't like it was to sort of set it apart from Souls games, and it was just kind of this idea of like, well, if we're training, if we're learning, I mean, we're going to have to be going in different directions. That's just kind of this spatial representation of developing your character as opposed to just point here, point there, and it was really important that didn't like negatively affect your ability to build your character, but it was meant to still add something unique to it, but the nodes just being nodes and nothing else was just like, okay, so like what's the big deal about them? And I thought adding flavor text to them was like in part like game theme or lore wise, the idea of that is maybe you're kind of meditating on different little verses or paragraph sentences from these books that are really really well known in this universe.
It's like their memory comes back to them from things they've read.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this reminds me of that, that fighter of, that defeated Velcram kind of thing, and all these different ways you can kind of take bits of lore from the universe and kind of make that part of your character. But yeah, and I really liked like I don't know the one the whole thing about how the three kind of develop, because it all started out where it was kind of like sort of generic creeds, and kind of turning the three into more of like an empire that's just harassing the smaller empires I thought was fun. The whole Penson pilgrimage, I like that one. But yeah, the Valkyrian one, that was a long poem. It was
Yeah.
it was kind of a pain to write. And actually, it's funny because the guy doing the German localization, like he wanted, I'm not sure how well it came out, but he really wanted to rhyme the whole thing, and
Right. Which is cool. It's like
Right.
a step above and beyond.
Oh yeah, I guess he did rhyme it.
Wow.
Really? I would ask this next question, by the way, because like I thought this was so cool. But like in all of the games you've done, even in this, you've always had such like metal references to things. It's always so just like rock and roll, with like the Dishwasher series, like Charlie Murder, and now this. There's still always just like that guitar under riff. So I've wanted to know, like, what are your musical inspirations for this? Like, who drives you?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I mean,
It's kind of funny. He doesn't really listen to the kind of music that he makes anymore. He listens to like a lot of I think it's like partially to just calm our nerves because we're so stressed out here, but a lot of like calm indie music is what we've been listening to. But yeah, you can talk about inspirations.
right? I feel like a little bit of Porcupine Tree comes through.
Documentary, yeah.
In
Oh,
Salt and Sanctuary.
Necrogoblicon. Oh my goodness.
Necrogoblicon doesn't come through in
It
Salt
doesn't
and
come through at
Sanctuary.
all, but that's like one of our favorite kind of metal bands right now because it's metal, but then it's in the theme of like this goblin from a fantasy world that lives
What?
in modern day society.
Oh yeah, if you haven't heard Necro, I think I feel like Stench is the best album. Like there's they had one before that, and then they have a new one called Heavy Meta. But Stench I thought was the best because it all exists in this universe of like goblins are like killing humans and reveling in the joy of killing humans, and it's like from the perspective of goblins, and it's just you can imagine these goblins singing and just having this crazy like feast and just like this crazy driving power metal is going, and it's great. But then, yeah, like the newer one, Heavy Meta, is it's like because they had like a real like a viral hit with what was it called? No One Survives, a video from Stench, which I guess Taco from The League is in that, and then they had like a porn star in it too or something. Like they had a few like bigger semi bigger names,
Semi-famous names, I guess. Yeah.
right? But um, so and it's a funny video too. But they kind of like went from that video like because like it existed in a like the rest of the album was kind of just like this fantasy goblins versus humans thing, but then that video was like the goblins working in an office and his coworker is kind of a dick, and it all kind of went into like a weird present day thing, and then their future their current one is all about like being in space and eating too many snacks and stuff. It doesn't
Goblins in space.
Snacks.
yeah, it's
Like my regular life. So,
right.
Being
Yeah,
in space and eating snacks.
yeah,
Who,
yeah.
who wouldn't want that?
But yeah, Stench is an awesome album. Listen to it.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
That
But what
sounds
would you
amazing.
say, like, what kind of music would you say, like, inspires the style that you actually make, like, especially, I guess, in Charlie Murder and now in
Well, Charlie
Salt?
Murder was all punk rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Do
mean,
you have
yeah.
any particular?
What would I think like? I forgot what band. There was like a band where I really wanted Charlie Murder to sound like them, maybe, but I don't know. Or maybe it was just kind of like a mashup of like like Sex Pistols, Ramones.
The
I'm not
classic
really.
punks.
I think
Yeah,
for
yeah.
I think for this game we were sort of trying to get a feel of like Castlevania music. That stuff is amazing. Maybe didn't quite hit it, but that was a start, That like combination of classical with guitar, like electric guitar.
Yeah, I really liked
Yeah.
the sound design too. Like, and in certain areas, how you like just strip away all the noise and it becomes like really quiet. Like, I think in the ziggurat when you're outside of it
Yeah.
and all the stars are
You
there,
first see the
yeah, it's
stars.
just totally silent. Like, that was really kind of like, oh wow, something's going on here. Like,
Right. Yeah. Michelle insisted on adding a shooting star
Mhm,
to the.
I did.
Yeah. So there's shooting stars
The
every now
shooting
and
stars.
then.
all right.
Yeah. But yeah.
So,
There's.
oh,
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, a lot of musical inspirations, just kind of work their way in. But yeah, I couldn't really pin it on any particular ones. I mean, a lot of it was just trying to learn how to make like classical sounding music, in the vein of Souls. But I always end up throwing guitar into it, so that just kind of happened. um, but yeah,
Yeah.
and then a lot of people say Tool. I feel like more.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people ask
I
if
could see
Tool
that.
did the soundtrack, and we're like, what? How could we possibly afford Tool in our game?
Right. Dear Mr. James Maynard, I am a video game maker.
Would you please provide your music for our game? It'll give you exposure.
Right. Or is his name Maynard James? I don't rember. Maynard James Keenan, is that it?
Gotta learn that one first
Yeah.
before you ask him.
Exactly.
We have
Step
to learn your
one.
name before we ask you.
Well, actually, I mean, we get a lot of emails that are like, dear, I don't like something that's not James.
Yeah. Well,
So it wouldn't be
the recent one has been Santiago because he changed his Twitter name to Santiago Silva,
right.
and now people think his name is Santiago.
Santiago.
Oh, that's
Yes.
great.
Why not?
Why not?
We'll just
Right.
go
It's
with it.
Twitter. It's not serious.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you guys think's next for the studio after Salt and Sanctuary? I know you said you were working on localization, but do you plan on bringing it to any other platforms besides Steam and Vita?
um, yeah, Steam will be the next one, and Vita's being handled by another development company, and we're just kind of working on those in the meantime. And then we still like several years later want to get our older games onto Steam. We've been trying to get to that.
Oh, cool.
It keeps taking a back burner to things, but we really need to do that.
I know. I'm gonna start working on a sequel, but Michelle won't let me. She's the villain of the piece.
I'm the villain. No, been talking, we've been brainstorming about sequel ideas.
Sequelitis.
Sequelitis.
All right.
Um,
Awesome.
but yeah, I mean that's kind of like obviously no promises, but we've got a lot of awesome ideas, I think.
We have a lot of awesome ideas, but we don't really want to
And,
talk
like,
about them to people
Yeah,
yet.
of course.
Because as soon as you start talking about it, people yell at you for release dates, and it's like it hasn't even started yet, guys.
right, right. But
Oh.
like a big kind of sort of I don't know moral thing about this to me is just that I felt like Salt and Sanctuary was about kind of earning the trust of Souls fans, like because it's like you kind of go out there and say, all right, I'm making a 2D like action combat heavy side scroller RPG that's got a lot of character building, and you say that and it's like everyone's like, okay, yep, I've heard of that before, whatever.
Mhm.
But you say it's basically 2D Dark Souls, and everyone's like, "Oh, okay, I'm listening." And it's funny because we had that Zero Punctuation did Salt and Sanctuary, and it was aside from like their really nice rendition of what they think I look like, they one of the biggest complaints was like, okay, this basically just puts its Dark Souls inspiration just right out, like not just on its sleeve, like it slaps you in the face with it, and but it's like okay, fine, that's a fair that's a fair statement. That's absolutely a fair statement. But would you have cared about this game if not for that, right? Like it's a weird kind of takeaway where people like that's their biggest complaint, but then I really wonder if it would have had that hook that
Yeah.
got everyone to be interested in it. We're still just as capable of a game developer as we were before we made it and after
Right.
after we've made it. So like if it didn't have such a strong show of thematic inspiration, well, maybe now that people have seen what we did with Salt and Sanctuary, they'll be more willing to trust us with more of a departure, something more in our style, and then so the idea of a sequel that to me it's like, okay, we could do more of a departure, like mechanically the same, but thematically more in the direction that we tend to go, and then maybe people will trust us. Maybe it doesn't have to just go with this like elevator pitch of like, yep, 2D Dark Souls,
Yeah.
love it or hate it. And that would be really cool. But yeah, in the meantime, it's been super awesome, the feedback we've been getting, and then the complaints about it being too similar are like totally warranted, totally fine. But it felt kind of like part of what it took to get people's attention, get people's trust. And everyone whose attention we've got, they've kind of walked away saying like, wow, you guys really nailed it. And we're like, yes, awesome. But at the same time, kind of understanding that if we didn't have that hook, they might not have cared to notice in the first place. So, which is, I mean, we're assuming an awful lot here, but I don't think they're too far off base. So that's why I personally would love to make a sequel. But we're still, we haven't even launched on PC. We have so much stuff to do we've got the languages, we've got PC support, we've got more patches coming in for PS4, and then we've got Vita on the way too. Jeez.
Yeah,
Although
Vita is a
that
thing.
Yeah.
one doesn't feel like, because it's it's not being handled by us, so it kind of just feels like a thing that'll just happen.
Yeah.
But
There's
Yeah.
still an amount of things we'll have to do with it, but we're also trying to release we're only in Sony America and Sony Europe
we
right
have to
now.
release in
We're
Japan too.
trying to release in Japan, see how that will work out.
Yep. So yeah, it's who knew making games is hard. But yeah, I mean there's and I have just such a bad habit with like finishing one game and I've already started the next one. So this one at least I haven't actually put anything, typed
Oh,
a
I know.
single
As
line of
soon as you
code.
start writing code, it's done. You're just going to be doing that for the next four
Right.
years.
But well, hopefully, I mean, I'm thinking like same engine. We can reuse a lot of stuff.
Like maybe make some improvements on the engine even.
Well,
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean that there's at least this time I haven't started anything new yet. I've basically been putting all of my creative energy into D&D right now because I'm DMing another campaign.
Oh, nice.
So
oh. Oh
so
yeah, I'm actually doing some side work too for another company. Just kind of like a fun side work, fun arts. I don't think I can announce it yet, but when I can, I will talk about it and be like, "Look at the game I'm doing arts for! Wow!"
Okay, cool.
yep.
Some of the art.
Well, speaking from personal experience, like I would totally be down to see a departure from what you were talking about and maybe go into your own style. You have earned my trust. I can go ahead and
All
say
right.
Yeah.
That was our main goal, and we accomplished it
But I
with
mean,
one person.
excited me a lot whenever I heard that it was like basically the dishwasher with Dark Souls stuff to it. I was like, oh, sweet, dishwasher stuff again.
There was maybe one person who vocally said like, "Oh, I'm kind of bummed because I love Dishwasher, but I hate Dark Souls." But I still totally support you and whatever you do, so that's cool.
Okay, and
Yep.
that brings us to our last question, and then we'll let you all get out of here. Um, how can everybody support Ska Studios, and where can people follow you, keep up with everything you're doing, and do you have any shout outs that you want to throw out there?
I think we
did
made
a
the
bunch
shout
of
outs
shout-
earlier
Yeah,
about
okay.
the other
As you've
Souls
been going.
as we've been going. But you can follow us on our company Twitter isn't super great about replying to people, but it's like our outgoing messages kind of a Twitter. And then our personal Twitters is where we respond. And that's at Jameszilla with one L and at Shell Dragon, two L's. um, and then our blog, which we just posted a April Fool's post. I mean, totally serious, not April Fool's. What do you mean? Um,
Oh yeah.
it should be pretty obvious it's an April 1st joke, but there's always people who think it's real or are upset that it is not real. So our blog, and then we have a merch store that is currently out of most sizes of shirts because I've been making all the shirts myself by hand,
Oh God.
and that's a lot of work. So
Yeah.
Wow.
I've been trying to talk to another screen printer who's local who can hopefully help me out with that. So hopefully there will be more shirts up soon. But there are posters and there's a tote bag and I should probably put other art prints up there.
You think there are any hats in the future? Any Salt and Sanctuary hats?
Hats. I haven't thought about hats before. Are you thinking like ball cap
Yeah,
or
yeah.
beanie?
Trucker
Ball
hats.
cap, beanie, any of them. I wear hats all the time. I would totally buy a Salt and Sanctuary hat.
Yeah, it's a good design for embroidery, especially, I think.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being here, guys. We really enjoyed it. The game is Salt and Sanctuary. It's out now on PS4, coming to Steam soon. Be sure to buy it. Stop listening to this and go get it now.
Go play.